Welcome, everyone, to the MMA Happy Hour. I am Kyle Anthony, your host, where today we are talking UFC Abu Dhabi. We've got Umar Nurmagomedov versus Cory Sandhagen. We're going to be breaking down 4 fights here on the show today. And listen, we're coming off another profitable evening at UFC 304 last weekend. Ended up cashing in on our max bet. Now, we've had 8 5% plays this year, and we are 8-0. Thank you to Mr. Aspinall. We had him via knockout, was minus 120, gave it to clients. That line did tick up to around minus 160, 165 fight night, but we ended up cashing it in anyway. Ran through Curtis Blades. Felt good to have another winning night. So now out of 23 UFC events this year, we have cashed 18 of them. 18. I mean, 8 fucking teen of them. Dominating 8-0 on our 5% plays. Our 4-unit plays were 14-5. I mean, just really seeing the board great. So with that being said, listen, I got one of these here. I film my my podcast at the bar. And when we, once in a while, I try not to indulge as much as I do on the show here. But cheers to Mr. Aspinall, and it was a good one. But with that being said, I guess we get into it. If you want to become a client, link down in the description. This weekend, I do have another 5% play that I absolutely love. Check it out at wagertalk.com. Again, link down in the description. And I think that's it. I think that's it. I think we're ready to dive into the main event of the evening between Umar Nurmagomedov and Cory Sandhagen. Now, we know what we're getting with Umar here, right? We got a guy who's 17-0, gonna look to wrestle, gonna look for those takedowns. You've got Cory Sandhagen on the other side here, rangy striker, very high level striking overall, and that's really where he's been able to find a lot of success. Now, there's no secret. There's no secret here. Wait. Also, guys, don't forget to like the video. Damn it! Don't forget to like the video. Help the algorithm. Also, we're kicking fucking ass here, so help the algorithm. With that being said, there's no surprise here what Umar is going to look to do. Going to look for takedowns, going to look to wrestle, going to look to get the control time, push him up against the fence, and just a rinse and repeat overall. It's done very well for Umar, what he's been able to do. Now, since he's been in UFC, I think it's about 5 fights. Since he's been in UFC, Umar will go the path that he needs to go, the Nurmagomedov path. And it's going to be wrestling. He averages 5 takedowns per 15 minutes and really been able to utilize that, get the takedowns, smother his opponents, and that's what he's looking to do. And that's how it's really worked out well for him. One of the interesting stats when you go back and look at Umar is the fact that this guy, over those fights, since he's entered the UFC, he's absorbing 0.56 significant strikes per minute. Now, I don't even give a shit who you're facing or what level of opponent you're facing. If you're averaging that over a few fights here, that's just showing his dominance. He's absorbing half a significant strike per minute, which I think is just absolutely incredible. Just the way that he's been able to dominate, get the control time, his pressure moving forward, and really banking those rounds. That's what he's able to do, bank those rounds, push forward, and that's going to be tough for Cory Sandhagen. Now, on either side, Sandhagen, there's no doubt. The guy has sensational striking, very rangy, can mix it up very well, mixes up targets very well as an opponent as well too, kicking the leg, going for the body, goes for the head, spinning shit he's going to do, jumping knees, and really mixing it up. And that can be tough for opponents to really figure out. He disguises the combinations very well, where the angles are coming from, footwork, distance management, all those things do work out well for him. Now, a couple of fights ago, he lost back-to-back fights. It was TJ Dillashaw and somebody else. And after I was Peter Yan. And after those 2 fights, Cory really changed. I wouldn't say change, or added wrestling to his game. He knew that that's something he needs to do. He needs to add that to his game. He needs to really start to kind of mix this in certain fights where, you did see where he's, if the fight's getting somewhat tight or the exchanges are getting tight, he can go down, level change, and look to kind of, he's definitely can be slick on the ground in certain spots and look to do that. Now, you look at kind of the increase in the wrestling. And, he's had 5 takedowns over his first 10 UFC fights. And then he had those losses in there as well. So, he wanted to change it up. And now over the last 3 UFC fights, he has had 11 takedowns. And I do think that has added a lot to his success. Now, obviously, again, a very diverse striker overall, but the takedowns are something that he can look to do. And I do think that, that is a little overstated because of the guys that he was able to take down. I mean, he took down Marlon Vera, who does not mind being on his back, and then also Rob Font, who's a boxer. So I do think it's a little overstated, but I also don't think that you're going to see Cory Sandhagen, who's going to want to look for takedowns, going to want to look for control time, going to want to look to bring Umar to Umar's world. I think he's going to look to kind of, sprawl and brawl and really utilize, his range and all of those things as well, too. But it really limits, in my opinion, it limits a little bit of what Cory can do. This now turns into really a full-on, in my opinion, a grappler versus striker type of matchup. Again, Cory has added his takedowns. He had, again, 11 takedowns over the last 3 fights. He can do it here. That closes out for him. And I do think, again, the level changes will be there for Umar. But I think one of the big things really for Umar is the physicality. And I think the strength and physicality is going to be massive for him here. I think that you're going to see it early in this fight where you're going to see any kind of, wrestling, exchanges. I really think these long, lanky legs of Cory Sandhagen are going to be there to be grabbed, to be taken down. You have, Umar, who's very good at kind of angling these takedowns and working guys to the ground. And then from there, he's going to latch on. And that, to me, is really where the difference can happen when you're talking about just the physicality and the strength. And I think that goes his way as well, too. And I also do think there's a little bit, maybe of like an overreaction, although the line and whatever, but overreaction to Umar's fight against Bekzat. Now, people may not know this guy or hey, he came in short notice. How good could he be? Maybe he's got a sexy record, but he's shit. Who knows? This guy's a beast. Bekzat is an animal. The guy is tough. He is well-rounded. He kept there, he can grapple. There's a lot of great things here. And for short notice, yes, and then people are going to maybe point to Umar getting dropped. I get that, not the greatest look, but you got to look at the fact of what actually happened over those 3 rounds. And you look at it, it was significant strikes landed was 68-3 in favor of Umar. So Bekzat landed 3 shots. One of them did drop him, but I think it was more of a, it was kind of a flash knockdown. It wasn't that he was, hurt or really, really badly hurt, but not only did he outland him 68-3, but he had 5 takedowns. So again, this is a spot where I do think that, you're just going to see that Umar can push forward. The fact that he even had adversity, I kind of like that Umar did get rocked and still was able to say, shit, I got to get my shit together. He pushed forward and able to find opportunities to get the victory. And, Umar's cardio is going to be there. I don't think there's going to be a problem here with 5 rounds. I think he can fuel relentless takedowns, chain wrestle over 5 rounds, and really find a lot of success there. So I do think that he's going to be able to go out there and really find a lot of success. We even look at the fact that Khabib's gonna be in his corner. Khabib not only coaches him, but will be in his corner. We did just see, what Bilal just did to Leon Edwards, was a snooze fest. But with that being said, he did enough where it just proves he can go out there. He can put out a game plan. He can have these guys be prepared. And I think that's what he's going to do here with Umar in his corner, really kind of guiding him through certain situations here. So I do like Umar to get the job done, but I actually like it inside the distance. I do think that he can find a submission or find a knockout at certain points, maybe ground and pounding. But I do like Umar to get the job done inside the distance, and that is my first free play. Next one here we're going to talk about is going to be Deiveson Figueiredo versus Marlon Vera. Now, this one here is interesting as well, too. You got Figueiredo, he's minus 145 in the comeback. You've got Marlon Vera, he is plus 120. Now, you got Figueiredo, former flyweight champion, 2-0 in the bantamweight division now, has come up, has looked pretty good. You've got Marlon Vera here, well-rounded fighter who definitely has the knockout power as well as the submission ability. I mean, definitely overall a very strong fighter overall. Money has, was coming in, really kind of tightening this line, pretty much was coming in on Vera, tightening this line a little bit here too. And I think that kind of part of it, obviously, I think the first thing here is going to be the age. There's going to be the age situation here. You've got Deiveson, who's 36 years old. You got Vera, who's 31. And I think that obviously is the issue, but it's also why you do have Deiveson, who's a guy that needed to come up in weight. Cutting weight at this age is very tough for these guys. It's taxing on the body. We've heard it from how many fighters that it's very taxing on the body. And especially just at this point in his career is just kind of a progression, especially after Brandon Moreno fights and all those things that were going on. But I do think that the physicality advantage on the Vera side could be, in very favor. He's going to have the size advantage. He could have the strength advantage. So some of those things can happen for him there. Vera will be the harder hitter as well. And I think that can, kind of help him out and land some big shots and work at range, these front kicks, these leg kicks. His kicking arsenal is very good when it comes to Vera. And even you got to add in the durability. I mean, definitely the durability of Vera is incredible. I mean, the guy can take a brick to the face and keep moving forward. I mean, it's very, very incredible what this guy can do and keep moving forward. Now, with that being said, there are some issues here on the Vera side. When you look at it first, I think the big thing for me, going back watching tape of these guys, is the fact that Vera needs big moments. I mean, there is no question in my mind that Vera needs big moments to win fights. He's not going to outland you. He's not going to work at range and, play it safe and out volume you and just kind of, pick away. He's going to look for big moments here. And that to me is something that is very hard to bet behind. It's very hard to back a guy that needs big moments. It's just very hard to do that because if he doesn't get these moments, all of a sudden he's behind. And a guy like Figueiredo can push a pace a little bit, can put some volume out there. But you look at really over his last 4 wins, and to me, there are some issues here. Now, out of the 4 fights, he fought Frankie Edgar, which, I mean, it was Frankie Edgar, the corpse of Frankie Edgar, basically. But Frankie Edgar, even him, goes out there, gets 3 takedowns, outlands him 94-88, and looked to be heading in the right direction. But you did have Figueiredo, who did have some You did have Vera, who had some big moments. Hurt Frankie, just just getting a flash, kind of wobbling him. And then at the very end, you did have the brutal knockout loss that Vera was able to kind of land the big shot and get the finish. But he was on his way to possibly losing that fight against an aged out Frankie Edgar. Then he also fought Rob Font. This was a fight where Rob Font outlanded him 271 to 159. Let me read that. 271 to 159, including a takedown. And yet he lost the decision, which is kind of crazy. A lot of people will say, hey, Rob Font won that fight. But when you look at it, it really, what the difference maker here was, again, the big moments. For Vera. Vera was able to, at the end of certain rounds, drop Font, make Font all of a sudden, it looks like he's hurt. He's going to get finished, where he has dominated and controlled the round at range. And that's really the big situation here, where if Figueiredo starts to pick him apart a little bit at range, Vera is going to need these big moments. Also, Dominic Cruz. This is another one where Dominic Cruz outlanded him 92-61 with 2 takedowns, but ends up getting rocked a couple times. And then again, credit to Vera. I don't want to sound like, these are like lucky shots of some sort. But again, he set up a beautiful high kick. I mean, absolutely beautiful. Dropped Cruz, finished the fight. But again, my point is, needed the big moment there. It was a great win for him, and another nice win, a nice knockout win for him, but another moment where he needs to have these big moments in order to find success. And then he beat also Pedro Munoz, which, is, he's kind of shit, to be honest with you. Well, maybe not. Well, I guess, yeah, he is. He's shit. 2-6 out of his last 8, not the most impressive win overall, but then you got to have the most recent fight. And having a guy hit the pinnacle in Vera, get to a title fight, big moment. This was really Vera's kind of how he hung his hat, on the fact, hey, I beat O'Malley kind of thing. And he comes into this fight with some, really feeling himself, and gets outlanded 230-89. 230-89, got his ass whooped. I mean, he was beaten to shit at the end of that. I think he broke his jaw. I mean, there were all kinds of things going on that he had just big time damage. He was battered. He was beaten. Again, over 5 rounds that took. Yes, he was able to take the damage, but not a good look overall with the volume. He didn't get the big moment. The big moment didn't come in that spot. And O'Malley was able to kind of work at distance and just easily pick Vera apart. And I think the hangover from a title opportunity can also be something that you can look at here that can hurt him here. And then the other part here, the big issue I have, is that Vera's just a slow starter. Not only is he just low volume overall, but he's a slow starter. And at a very high clip, he gives up that first round. And in 5-round fights, yeah, you could battle back. You got 4 of the rounds to come. Here, you give up the first round, you're down 1. Now, with 2 rounds left, you either got to knock the guy out or you got to win the next 2. So you're kind of put your back into the corner. Now, I get it. Vera likes to get reads, all these other things that he likes to do. And I'm sure it does help him. But in a 3-round fight, I do think Deiveson is going to find some success there. Bank that first round. Start to utilize, I think, also the takedown. Vera's fine, kind of playing in his guard, kind of sitting on his back. I think Figueiredo can kind of muffle down Vera. Vera will play there a little bit, and I think that's where you can find success here. So in this spot here, I think that the volume will be there for Figueiredo. I think that the takedowns will be there for him as well too. So I do like this spot here. I do think at this price, I like Deiveson Figueiredo here -145. And the next fight here we're going to talk about here, I'm going to need a shot of Casamigo before we even get into this one. Cheers. Tommy A. All right, so we've got Shamil Gaziev -250. Come back here, we've got Don'Tale Mayes +200. Now, this about is the highest level of MMA that you can get. These guys are just peak physical condition. These guys are just, no, this is a very low level fight. And that's what kind of brings me to kind of how I look at this fight, right? So when you look at someone like Shamil Gaziev, first of all, Shamil Gaziev, how do I, what's the technical term to really kind of place Shamil Gaziev? And I thought about it for a while, and I came to the fact that Shamil Gaziev is complete shit. This guy is not good. At all. I don't really think so. No, I don't really think that Don'Tale Mayes is some world beater either. But when you look at the price tag, that's what changes it. Don'Tale Mayes is not -250 in this spot. So seeing Shamil Gaziev at -250 to me is a wildly wide line. When you look at this here now, coming off of his Jairzinho Rozenstruik terrible performance here, where Gaziev, and that was a spot where we bet Rozenstruik. Rozenstruik was like a +160, and I'm like, what the fuck am I missing? Like, what the fuck am I missing in this spot here? Why are people on Gaziev? I see nothing that's good. He's complete shit. What am I missing here that's going on here? And in that fight, it was quickly shown that this guy's a fraud. I mean, this guy to me is a fraud. Now, again, Don'Tale Mayes, not a high-level fighter, but in that spot against Rozenstruik, who solid kickboxer, has way more higher level experience, does have power. And Shamil Gaziev early on, one of the funniest things, I'm sure everybody's going to be talking about this, one of the funniest things about Gaziev was that when he shot a takedown early in that fight, I mean, Rozenstruik just like slid to the side. He was just like, all right, I'm going to move over here. You're going to shoot. I'm going to move over here. And Gaziev just basically runs into the cage and looks around like, shit, I missed him. Like one of the worst takedown attempts you may see at the UFC level. Like, probably one of the worst. And with that being said, Rozenstruik goes out there, outlands him 127-22, slaps him around for however many rounds it was. Didn't really do too much. And really on that point there, you did see not only the fact that I thought that Gaziev looked terrible, but also the fact that there's quitting him. He looked defeated early in that fight. I mean, early in that fight, you can tell the corner, him, the corner, everyone's trying to like, shit, like we're way behind here. And to me, that's a bad sign overall here. And I think at this number, this is just a crazy number. It's just a crazy number. This guy's not worth parlaying. I think this is a line that should be around -120 for Gaziev, somewhere around there. I don't see how you could even get to this price. Even if Gaziev wins, this is something you need to stay the fuck away from. But when you're looking at value, there is some value on Mayes at +200, as much as you don't want to talk about it. There is value on Mayes. Now, there could be some wrestling here. I think that Gaziev does have an opportunity to get a takedown, get some control time, can just fucking lay on, Mayes. And that's possible. That's a possible thing here. But I do think that Mayes, 60% takedown defense rate, he's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage, 2-inch height advantage. I think he kind of work at range. And one of the biggest things that I think does help Mayes in this spot, I think, is the leg kick. Gaziev has terrible footwork, and he does not know how to check a kick. And I think Mays, who does love throwing some low kicks, I think that's a spot where you're going to see him slamming away early on leg kicks to really just not only just slow down Gaziev even more, but just not give him any power on these takedowns to just kind of lay on Mays for 3 rounds. I do think that he does have some power, probably maybe a little bit better striking. Again, low-level fight. I'm not talking about Mays like he's some amazing fighter here. But I do think that there is a chance here where the leg kicks, the range, the reach, and the really shitty cardio that we've seen Shamil have. I mean, he just doesn't have cardio and quit in them. At minus 250, this number is just absurdly wide here. So I think as a sprinkle spot, that makes some sense as a value play. I'm taking Dontel Mays plus 200. Now, the last one here we're going to talk about here, of course, we're going to talk about this one. Of course, we are going to talk about this one. I mean, of course we are. And it's going to be Michael Chiesa minus 650 against Tony Ferguson plus 475. Now, hold on. Got me talking Shamil Gaziev and friggin' Michael Chiesa minus 670. Holy shit. So this line's crazy. Okay, let's start there. This line is crazy to me. Now I get it. I understand it. Tony Ferguson, he's washed, 0-7 run. 4 of those he got finished inside the distance, has not looked good. He's aging, he's getting older. All of these things, you got one of them where, Chandler, front kicked his face into the rafters. I mean, there are a lot of things that are different that, hey, this really, he looks done. Ferguson does look done. I get it, the MMA mileage, the damage he's taken, all of those things. But if you look at it, and one of the things that everyone's gonna say is, Tony Ferguson hasn't looked great in years, right? He hasn't looked great in years. Either is Michael Chiesa. I mean, either is Michael Chiesa. Michael Chiesa has not done anything in many years either. So a minus 670 line to me is pretty crazy. Also, you've got the last win for Tony was 2019 against Donald Cerrone, which is crazy. But then you also look at it. Chiesa's last win was 2021 against Neil Magny. Now, Tony Ferguson on an 0-7 run. You've got Chiesa on an 0-3 run. So it's not like this guy's some rising up-and-comer or some guy that has touched gold or has really, it's Michael Chiesa. It's a guy who has a cushy desk job at the UFC. That's what Chiesa is at this point, with terrible jokes, by the way, terrible jokes. But with that being said, you got Chiesa, his wins. We talk about these 0-3 run. His wins are Diego Sanchez. I mean, the Diego Sanchez, the GOAT Diego Sanchez, Carlos Condit, who at this point, was a shell of himself, RDA. And then you also, kind of want to play into, Tony Ferguson's age, which I get it. He's 40. Chiesa's 36. I mean, both of these guys are washed, not at the point of high caliber. And we're talking about a line now that's, minus 670. But one of the things that if you're backing Tony, if you're looking at this, is your, light at the end of the tunnel is going to be the biggest issue for Chiesa is his submission defense. And that is music to the ears of, Tony Ferguson, is because, that's really where Tony could find some success here. Now, we know there's going to be takedowns. Chiesa is going to look for takedowns. He's going to look for all of that. You also know the fact that, Tony off his back, anytime on the ground is just opportunistic, will submission hunt, will, hunt for it, whether it's the right move or the wrong move, the guy's going to go for it. And Chiesa is a guy who is susceptible to being submitted. As high level as we talk about, or people can talk about his grappling, and that's his thing. His striking's kind of well, his grappling is grappling, all that. Out of his 7 losses, he's been submitted 5 times. And that's not the greatest showing when you're looking at it there. And I just think the opportunistic of Tony Ferguson provides some value here. Now, I know these are some big underdogs I'm talking here, but again, it's more, these are not parlay pieces, win or lose, not worth parlay pieces. And I'm looking at Tony Ferguson at nearly a plus 500. To me, I have not bet this yet. But I'm bringing this up more because I'm looking at this line and it continues to widen. I mean, money consistently is coming in at Chiesa. Now people are starting to parlay it, think it's an easy money. Now, listen, even if Chiesa goes out there and one punches Tony Ferguson, there is not a world where Michael Chiesa should be a minus 650 against a human being. So with that being said, I do think that there is a path here for Tony, as crazy as that is. Don't unsubscribe because I said that, but there is a path here for Tony. I do think he can go out there, look for opportunities to get a submission, or at least kind of go out there and make it a wild fight, which Chiesa may not want a wild fight. So to me, in this spot here, I will be going Tony Ferguson to get the job done. Again, the last two plays I talked about, sprinkle spots, value, worth a shot here. Again, I always like to give, some plus money spots here that are worth the value, worth betting. But sometimes there's just a little sprinkle spot. That's what these two are at the end here. So there you have it. El Kukui closing out the show. Holy shit. So there you have it for UFC Abu Dhabi. I think I fucking rambled too much on this show here today, but if you want to become a client, link down in the description. And let's keep getting this money, man. Let's keep, 23 events, cashed 18, 8-0 on 5%ers. The fuck else I got to say, right? Let's cash.